Well, it's time to dive into our Big 12 football power rankings as we get set for the final week of the regular season. Cannot believe it's here. It's so cliche. We say it every year, but here we are. Final week of the regular season. I'm Pete Mundo. Heartland College Sports is where you find us covering the Big 12. Welcome in. If you're getting this show a little early, maybe a day early, well, that's because I'm recording this show a day early because, well, I'm going to be at Arrowhead Stadium on Monday night for the Chiefs and the Eagles. So I'm here in Kansas City. For those of you that do not know that, I am fired up for the Chiefs-Eagles, and I'm going to be out there at Arrowhead. So I'm doing this a little early instead of doing it on Monday night. But we also have Big 12 tiebreaker rules we've got to talk about for this week. So we'll get to all that and much more here on Heartland College Sports. Welcome in. Let's count down the power rankings. And before we do that, hit that thumbs up on YouTube. That helps us tremendously. Subscribe to the show if you haven't yet. We're right on the verge of 5,000 YouTube subscribers. So thank you for being a part of it and joining the show with us here. So we'll start at the bottom of the power rankings as we do each and every week. And remember, this is done based on who you've played, who you've beaten, and also a little extra emphasis on what you've done the most previous week. That's how I do my power rankings. So let's start at the bottom with number 14. The Baylor Bears are number 14, dead last in the power rankings this week. They get blown out by TCU. They're 3-8. They had an ugly loss on Saturday, bad second half, and Baylor ranks near the bottom of the Big 12 in almost every major category. This team stinks, and there's nothing to really suggest. Here's the concerning part for Baylor. There's nothing to really suggest the turnaround is a year away, unless Dave Aranda just goes nuts in the transfer portal, and I just don't see that happening. Number 13 in the power rankings this week, BYU comes in at 13. Now, they're up a slot. They were 14 last week, but hey, they play OU down to the wire. I got to give them that much. And that was a hard-fought game after getting blown out in 3 straight games. So BYU gets the number 13 spot in the power rankings this week. At number 12, Cincinnati. They fall 1 spot. They were coming off their first Big 12 win, but they ended up going to Morgantown and getting blown out by the Mountaineers. They just don't have the quarterback play or the offense, for that matter, to keep it up in this league, and they're going to have to figure that out and figure it out very soon. At number 11, the Houston Cougars. Now, Houston was hanging in there with Oklahoma State for a while. They were right in that game, and then finally Oklahoma State's like, I guess we should give Ollie Gordon the football. That would be a good idea, huh? And then Oklahoma State ended up winning the game. But Houston comes in at number 11 this week. At number 10, I've got the TCU beat Baylor, but I got to hand it to TCU. You look at this thing right now, and TCU could very well find itself in a bowl game if, big if, they can pull off the upset against Oklahoma. It's going to be tough, obviously, on Black Friday. But if they can beat Oklahoma, TCU finds itself bowl eligible, which they desperately want to get to. I mean, those extra 3 weeks, you can't understate what those extra 3 weeks are worth when it comes to just getting the young guys reps, practice, bowl experience. It matters. It's valuable. It's a big deal. So TCU comes in at number 10 this week. We'll see if they can get the bowl eligibility. They were 10 last week. At number 9, UCF. UCF losing to Texas Tech. Hey, special teams cost them, missed field goals, missed extra points, blew a 14-0 first quarter lead. Bad stuff all around for the Knights, unfortunately. But hey, it's a team that's definitely been trending in the right direction the last few weeks. You can't deny that. But I got them moving down 1 slot from number 8 to number 9. At number 8, I have the West Virginia Mountaineers dominating Cincinnati after getting that blown out against Oklahoma the week prior. So West Virginia gets a bounce-back win. Expected it, but here's the thing. West Virginia is not going to play from behind well. That's not what they do. That's not how they're ever going to be. Not with Garrett Green, not with this team. But boy, do they have a budding star in Jaheim White at running back. Gosh, that guy has been darn impressive the last few weeks. So got some good stuff going on there for the Mountaineers, who are now a game away from being 8-4. Sheesh. Neil Brown's not going anywhere, folks. Sorry to break it to you, but he's not. At number 7, the Kansas Jayhawks. You know, KU had that game in its hands against Kansas State, and then, of course, the wheels fell off. Muffed punt, and the rest is history. Will Howard takes it in 15 yards out for a score. Man, oh, man, if you are a Kansas fan, that one is going to sting for a while. Now, of course, the season's not over, but that one's going to sting for a while. You had it in your hands. You were up, 27-16? And you end up blowing that game like that? I mean, that is a tough way to go down on a muffed punt. But such is life in the world of college football. Special teams played a big role all over the place this weekend, by the way. I mean, you had 2 PATs get returned for scores in various games this week, right? I mean, it was crazy when you look around the Big 12 and what happened in Week 12. So a lot of special teams mistakes. We saw that play out in multiple games, and it cost the teams that ultimately screwed up those special teams. That's usually how it goes, by the way. At number 6, I've got the Texas Tech Red Raiders. They beat Kansas last week. They're suddenly playing some good football. They got the win over TCU. They're bowl eligible now. So Texas Tech, who still is like real chaos in the Big 12, then you and I both know they beat Texas. Who knows what Saturday's going to look like around this conference? I promise you that. It's going to be nuts. So I've got Texas Tech at number 6. At number 5 in the power rankings, Iowa State comes in at 5 in the power rankings this week. And here's the thing. For Iowa State coming in at number 5 in the power rankings, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at them and I'm saying to myself, man, yes, they were in that game against Texas, but Texas also was its own worst enemy in that game. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They were their own worst enemy in that game. They had a couple of penalties that called back scores in the first half. Texas was moving the ball, was having success, but they shot themselves in the foot, so it was 6-3 at halftime. But then they got things cooking in the second half, and Quinn Ewers looked damn good. Best he's looked since early in the season. At number 4 in the power rankings this week, I've got the Oklahoma Sooners at number 4. Now, they got the win. They beat BYU. This comes after blasting West Virginia last week, but it wasn't all that impressive of a win. It just wasn't. I mean, Dylan Gabriel goes down, so I got to bump him down a notch in the power rankings just because I'm looking at this team right now, and the team that they ended with Jackson Arnold is not the team it is with Dylan Gabriel. So I've got OU at 4 in the power rankings this week. Now for number 3, I'm putting, and this was a toss-up for me. This was a toss-up at number 3, but hear me out. I am putting Oklahoma State at number 3 in the power rankings this week. And here's why. Oklahoma State had a great streak there, right? Leading up to the Bedlam win. Then they get blown out by UCF on the road. Then they play Houston. Houston's good. I like Houston. But they're losing to Houston. They had no business trailing Houston. Finally gave the ball to Ollie Gordon. Finally woke up and finally decided now's the time to start playing some football. So they won the game. But it wasn't all that impressive. But I give them the edge for the number 3 slot over Oklahoma because they beat Oklahoma just a couple of weeks ago. So that's how I'm factoring that one out. At number 2 in the power rankings, I've got the Kansas State Wildcats. K-State continues to look really good. K-State beats KU, of course, on Saturday. This after they dominated Baylor 2 weeks ago. K-State has won 5 of 6. The only loss is the overtime loss against Texas, where they didn't want to kick the field goal to tie the game in the first overtime. Instead, what did they want to do? They wanted to go for the win. Who knows how this Big 12 season would look if K-State had kicked that field goal, but we'll never know. But K-State is playing some great football right now on both sides of the ball. They're looking to, all three phases, by the way. Special teams as well. They are looking darn good. So K-State, I've got it number 2 in the power rankings this week. And then that means at number 1, I've got the Texas Longhorns, clearly the most talented team in this conference. They are still in the college football playoff hunt, the only team in the Big 12 that can say as much. And, they've had some close games, but the one thing you got to like about Texas against Iowa State, they did not let Iowa State back into this game late, as they did with their previous 3 games. So Texas looking good. They beat Texas Tech, and they are guaranteed their spot in the Big 12 championship this week. I'm Pete Mundo, Heartland College Sports. Subscribe to the show on YouTube and, of course, on the podcast as you join us here on the show. Let's go to the Big 12 football tiebreaker scenarios that the league released on Sunday night. Can we get to that? Because this is exactly what I called for in the reaction show on Saturday. And it's exactly what we wrote about at heartlandcollegesports.com on Sunday morning. I'm not saying the Big 12 listened to us at Heartland College Sports. This is a very obvious thing to do. It's not rocket science. But, I will take some credit and I will pat ourselves in the back. And you, by the way, our readers, our listeners, and our viewers for consuming our content and making us the most powerful independent digital media outlet covering the Big 12. And the Big 12 did the right thing on Sunday. They released the championship game scenarios ahead of the week. We're not sitting here speculating all week. They got it out on Sunday. So now we know what the scenarios are in the Big 12 this week. And let's talk about them. All right. So let's start off with this. Scenarios for the football championship surrounding the games on Friday. There are 2 games on Friday, Texas Tech, and Oklahoma TCU. Oklahoma remains in contention with either a win or a loss. Now, of course, a loss, they're going to have to pull an inside straight. But the Big 12 did confirm that. They can get absolute chaos in the Big 12. Oklahoma can end up still in a Big 12 championship game with a loss to TCU. Texas will clinch a berth to the championship game with a win over Texas Tech on Friday. We know that. But it's not 100%. It might be 99.9%, but it's not 100% yet. So that's out of the way for the Friday games. Now, let's say Texas wins and clinches a berth on Friday. Here are the following scenarios for the Big 12 games on Saturday. If Oklahoma State beats BYU, the Cowboys clinch a berth to the championship as the number 2 seed. That's if Texas wins. So if Texas wins and Oklahoma State wins, those 2 teams are playing for a Big 12 title. If Texas wins and Oklahoma beats TCU, and also Oklahoma State loses, then we've got a Red River Big 12 championship game. So Oklahoma beats TCU, Texas beats Texas Tech, and Oklahoma State loses to BYU. We've got OU Texas for a Big 12 title. So, by the way, that would be very Oklahoma State. Beat OU in the regular season and then only need to beat a really bad team in Week 13. No offense, Baylor, but it's not a good team right now. And lose that game and allow OU to punch its ticket to a Big 12 championship game. Let's be honest. That would be very Oklahoma State. I don't want it. I don't want to see it. But that would be awfully OSU. Now, here we go. How does Kansas State win? If Texas wins and Kansas State defeats Iowa State on Saturday, and OU loses to TCU, and Oklahoma State loses to BYU, it is Kansas State and Texas for a Big 12 championship. Now, that's going to be tough for K-State fans because, BYU is going to be a double-digit dog at Oklahoma State, and TCU is going to be a double-digit dog against Oklahoma. So K-State needs to win and then also needs 2 double-digit upsets from BYU against Oklahoma State and TCU against Oklahoma on Friday. So that's the scenario for Kansas State. There's a path, but it's tricky. Now, here's where it gets really hairy and really interesting. What if Texas Tech beats Texas on Friday? Here are the scenarios that apply. No team can clinch a bid to the championship game until Saturday if Texas Tech pulls the upset on Friday. Texas can still clinch a berth to the championship game if 2 of the 3 2-loss teams lose on Friday and or Saturday. So here's what that means. Texas can lose to Texas Tech and will still play for a championship if 2 of these teams lose. K-State, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. That's how it plays out. Now, that's not all that likely. It's not. But that's how it would have to play out. I think, frankly, if Texas Tech beats Texas, Texas is gone. Because then they would need K-State to lose to Iowa State, or Oklahoma to lose to TCU, or Oklahoma State to lose to BYU. They would need 2 of those 3 teams to lose. And all 3 of those teams are going to be favorites. So they need 2 of those 3 favorites to lose on Saturday or Friday with the Oklahoma game. I don't think that's likely. I don't know about you, but I don't think that's likely. And then if Texas loses on Friday and 2 or 3 2-loss teams win amongst Kansas State, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, there will be 3 or 4 teams tied for both championship berths. And multiple scenarios exist in this circumstance contingent on which team remains in the tiebreaker pool. So that means, here's what that means. If Texas loses and then 2 or 3 of the 2-loss teams win out, meaning Kansas State, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State, then you've got a 3 or 4-way tie, and it's going to be chaos. And the Big 12 is not even answering those questions right now. They're not even playing to that script because then it would go to common opponents and various other tiebreakers. So they're not even entertaining that one early in the week. But I'm glad the Big 12 did this because this makes it very easy for every fan to follow and every fan to figure out, hey, here's how this goes. If your team is Kansas State, here's the path you need. If you're an Oklahoma fan, if you're an Oklahoma State fan, if you're a Texas fan, that's how it should be. They should have done this last week. They didn't, but to their credit, they're learning from their mistakes, and I'm happy about that. So all in all, we've got this figured out. The scenarios have been laid out there on Sunday. If you're a Big 12 fan, you can't complain about the conference. You can't complain about your mark this week. It's all lined up for you here. But you're going to need some help, right? You're going to need some help. But here's what's interesting, too. What's interesting is Kansas or Oklahoma State has to be a fan of Texas this week. Oklahoma State fans need to make this simple. You beat BYU, you're in. But if you're an Oklahoma State fan, what you don't want to deal with is a Texas loss. So Oklahoma State fans are going to be Texas fans on Friday. I know that might make you feel icky inside, Cowboys fans, but you are going to have to be a Texas fan on Friday against Texas Tech, whether you like it or not, because that is your easiest path to a Big 12 title. If Texas wins and Oklahoma State wins, we've got our Big 12 title game. If Texas Tech wins, then you could see a scenario where Oklahoma State potentially could get squeezed out. That's what makes this so interesting over the next few days. And we've got 2 days, Friday with a couple of games, and then again on Saturday. So I'm all about these Black Friday games. I think they're going to be a lot of fun, and they're going to play a big role in terms of how this Big 12 season ends up playing out. I just can't wait. I'm Pete Mundo. We're Heartland College Sports. We cover the Big 12 Conference. It's always great to have you guys on board and joining us here on the show, talking about everything going on in the Big 12. If you haven't yet, now's the time to jump on our Big 12 message boards. They are free. You're going to want to be talking to other Big 12 fans. We got folks all over the conference interacting, having a good time, and it's away from the trolls. That's what makes it fun. So join us, hit the thumbs up on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Final week of the season. It is going to be a lot of fun here at Heartland College Sports. And also subscribe to the podcast. Leave that 5-star rating. I want to get to 750 on the iTunes ratings by Thanksgiving. Can you help us? Just hit the 5-star. And if you want the koozie, leave a ring and review. I'll hook you up. Send me a screenshot of it to Pete Mundo, Mundo, at heartlandcollegesports.com. Have a great rest of your day. Happy kickoff to Thanksgiving week, and we appreciate you being here. We have a lot to be thankful for at Heartland College Sports, a lot of it because of you and you sharing the show and you being here, listening to the show and watching the show right now. Join us. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving, but we're going to be talking to you before then. There's too much Big 12 stuff going on. So you guys are the best. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.